So, I'm wondering if anybody felt like I may have played just a little bit of a dirty trick on you. I had us sing together, no turning back, no turning back, the cross before me, the world behind me. Oh, none go with me, still I will follow. And then you had to sit there and listen to a gospel reading that I think might have tempted most of us, or many of us at least, to say, hold on just a second. Let me think about that. So there it is. Well, no turning back. I'm wondering if there's anyone today who remembers which of the 12 disciples it was who, at the table of the Lord's Supper on the night before Jesus was crucified, after Jesus had told them, "You're all going to forsake me and flee away," which they did, which one of them was it that said, "Not me, Jesus, no way"? Oh, good for you. Good old Peter. You know, he always had his foot in his mouth, didn't he? But I kind of like the thought, however, that Jesus, if I'd been Jesus, I might have said, hang on a second, Peter. I think once I told you I was going to build a church on you as a good solid rock. Let me rethink that. But no, that's not Jesus. So there it is. So we had this gospel reading, and we had at least two parts that were very much about what we might expect to happen if indeed we are able to keep on following, no turning back. Number one, we will be called, Jesus tells us, at least by some people, disgusting names, despicable names, contemptible names. Beelzebul. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation, but that was mine. You had a different one. I'm calling him Beelzebul. It's really not a translation. It's a transliteration, which means that they simply used English letters to substitute for the letters that would have been used in Aramaic or Hebrew or Greek, whatever it was. Beelzebul. I think that some of you might possibly own a modern paraphrase of the New Testament, Eugene Peterson, called The Message. Well, I've been sort of debating with myself whether or not he gives us a translation. Nobody else dared to do this. This is in modern, everyday, 21st century English. Beelzebul, it was a name that the Jews used to refer to the devil himself, the prince of darkness. But what it seems to mean, if we can trust Eugene Peterson, are there children here? Well, anyway, I'm going to risk this. It means poop face. How about that? All right, so now having said that, I have to say that in my experience, at least not to my knowledge or not to my face, nobody's ever called me that kind of a name, or for that matter, any terribly disgusting names to my face. Perhaps behind my back, it's quite possible. But at least it prompts me to ask myself the question, why might that be, Aaron? One possible answer would be, well, because everybody today is right with us, following along right behind Jesus. Probably not. So I think the other possibility that I'm able to think of is this one. It just may be that I'm not following quite closely enough to be in any major way mistaken for Jesus. So there it is, and you can all do with it what you will. So they're going to call us disgusting, despicable names, at least some people, if we're faithfully following, if we're not turning back. But then we go on to, I'm going to skip over the middle and come back to that because that's what I really want to zero in on. But we skip over the middle, we go to the end, and we find that if we are faithful followers of Jesus, we we are going to find out that within families, within what we might consider the most important loyalties, in fact, that we have in our lives, there will at least sometimes be disruption. They will say, "What? You're going to put your loyalty to this Jesus ahead of me? Get out of here." But there it is, and I think that probably some of you have had some experience in your lifetime of disruption within the family unit. Of course, it's very important. Of course, those loyalties are very important. But nevertheless, your loyalty, first and foremost, to be following Jesus, causes some pain, some disruption. So in any case, all of that, I would think, sounds like fairly bad news, doesn't it? And my job is supposed to be before you on a Sunday morning and proclaim the good news. Good news was in the middle section, so let's go to that. Three times we had it from Jesus in that middle section, slightly different words. Fear not, be not afraid, have no fear. Why not? Well, he goes on then immediately to say, fear not, have no fear, boldly proclaim the message that I have given to you from the housetops. Because I've already told you in advance, you've been warned, you already know what's coming. So proclaim it aloud from the housetops without fear. And furthermore, the day of judgment will come, the day when the light of God's truth will shine on everything and everything will be exposed for exactly what it was. So whatever lies or terrible things were being said about you, it'll all come out in the wash. It'll be all right. The day of judgment will come. And then we had two sentences that are kind of antidote, I would call them, for fears. And the first sentence had to do with this. He spoke about the tender, loving care that the Father up above, who looks down in tender love, has for every single creature in his creation, even the little sparrows. I'm not a bird watcher. I don't know if sparrow was really exactly what we would think was a sparrow. I don't give them a lot of thought. But if I was a bird watcher, maybe I would and maybe I should. But Jesus assures us that the Father up above looks down in tender love upon every single one of his creatures that he has created, so that if even one of them should fall to the earth, he sheds a tear, I guess. He's looking down in tender love and he cares. And then he moves on to say this. How much more, in fact, how much more should we, the creatures created in his image, the creatures created for fellowship with him, be the object of his total, all-consuming care and concern and tender, loving care. Now, our translators, they made a mistake with one word, and it's the most important word in the whole thing. Not a bad word, but it's kind of bland. And I'm going to substitute a synonym. No synonym is exact, it's just kind of general, but the synonym seems to be as much more powerful. Jesus said, how much more should you, as the creatures God made in his image, be able to count upon his tender watch, care, and love for you? How much more valuable, that's the word that they use. Wrong. There's got to be a translation somewhere that uses the word that I like. How much more precious. The word we use for for the people that we most deeply care for, especially perhaps our children, sometimes our spouses, sometimes we call them other things, but anyway. How much more should you be so sure of how precious you are in the sight of the Father up above? Precious. It's really a one-word sermon, you know. I hope you'll carry that one away if nothing else is remembered. You're precious. You're precious. Have no fear. You're more than worth a billion, a trillion sparrows, whom also God, Father above, cares very deeply about. Well, then now I've been asking myself, I work really hard on my sermons while I'm sleeping. So while I was sleeping last night, I was asking myself this question. But who is included in the number of the precious ones? I think we might be tempted to think that it's just the disciples, you know, even when they happen to be being really faithful and following closely. I think that's wrong. He speaks of all the creatures of God. I believe that it includes every single one. And then I asked myself, well, yeah, how about Vladimir Putin? Is he precious in the eyes of the Father up above? Make your own substitute. But there are all sorts of people who perhaps have heard the words, perhaps have not, are certainly making no attempt to be faithful followers of Jesus. And yet I would submit to you, dear friends, they too are precious in the sight of God. You may have noticed in our liturgy that Julia changes a word in the prayer of consecration where it says that Jesus died for many. She always puts in the word all. And Christians have thought about this a little bit, but Julia's right. The word needs to be all. There is not a single one of God's beloved ones whom he has made in his image, to whom in his eyes that one is not precious. And so I guess my other question would be, I'm not sure I have the great answer to that, but my other question would be, how do they come to understand and to know that this is so? And not only to know it kind of intellectually, as, oh yes, Jesus said it, it must be so, but to know it by personal experience, to know that they are precious. And I'll give you the answer I came up with. Maybe you will have a better one. But my answer is that we come to experience it and know it as an experiential reality, how precious we are, by means of our association with those other ones who are following. Not perfectly. We're all Peters in the end, but nevertheless, faithfully seeking to follow. And somehow, through them, we come not only to sort of know it in the head, but to know it in our experience and feel it in our hearts. So, thank you, dear friends. You're precious. And once in a while, Father Aaron can say, yeah, maybe me too. We're precious. And so they might call us some nasty names. We might have to face some disruption and pain within families.